How will it all end? It's probably the biggest question we've ever asked ourselves, right? And for as long as we've been looking up at the sky, we've turned to two very different sources for answers: science and myth. One gives us these incredible divine dramas, and the other? Well, it gives us cold, hard equations.
I mean, really, think about it. This question is so fundamental. It's the ultimate mystery, the final sentence in the story of, well, everything. And from the most ancient stories we've told to the most advanced cosmological theories, we've been trying to figure out what that final sentence says.
So in this explainer, we're going to put two of those epic stories side by side. On one side, you've got modern cosmology, with concepts like the Big Rip and phantom dark energy. And on the other, you have ancient mythology, with its divine agents and ideas of spiritual salvation. Now, they might seem like they're from different planets, but you'd be surprised at the weird and wonderful parallels we're about to uncover. All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll start with the engines of destruction, then look at the final unraveling, ask if there's any escape from the end, and finally, wrap it all up with what these two stories of everything are really telling us. Okay, first up, engines of destruction. What's actually pulling the trigger on the end of the universe? Is it some conscious being with a motive, or is it just physics, an inevitable outcome written in the language of math? Let's kick things off with the science.
In some of the wildest cosmological models, the villain of the story is called phantom dark energy. Now, this isn't some monster hiding in the dark. It's a property of space itself. The best way to think about it is like you're blowing up a balloon, but every breath you blow in is stronger than the last. The balloon expands faster and faster and faster until it just can't take it anymore and rips itself apart. That's phantom dark energy, but for the entire universe.
And now for the mythological destroyer. Meet Manasa, a Hindu snake goddess. She is the exact opposite of an impersonal force. She's got a will of her own, she's got emotions, a really complicated backstory. She's not just a force of nature, she's a major character in a grand cosmic play, a goddess of death, sure, but so much more.
So you can really see the difference here, right? One is basically born from a mathematical formula driven by an equation of state, which is just a fancy way of saying it has to follow a specific set of physical rules. The other is born from the mind of a god, driven by will and emotion. One messes with the fabric of space-time itself, the other talks to people. She interacts with her followers. These are two completely different ways of imagining the force that brings about the end.
So we've met the destroyers, but what does the end of the universe actually look like in these two scenarios? How does it all come undone?
Well, the scientific version is called the Big Rip. And yeah, it is every bit as horrifying as it sounds. As that phantom dark energy gets stronger and stronger, its push becomes infinite. It's a one-way trip to complete and total annihilation. There's no sequel. And the whole thing unfolds in these terrifying steps. First, entire galaxies get flung away from each other. Then, gravity itself gives up, and solar systems break apart. Stars and planets are literally torn to shreds. And in the final awful moments, the atoms themselves are ripped apart. Everything, and I mean everything, is just gone. But in the mythological story, destruction isn't an ending, it's a transformation. And the perfect symbol for this is the snake. When a snake sheds its skin, it isn't dying, it's being reborn. It defeats death by casting off its old self to make way for the new.
See, this changes the whole game. In this view, the universe has a rhythm. The end isn't some horrible cosmic accident. It's a necessary part of the cycle, clearing the stage for the next act to begin. It's a story of renewal where destruction actually has a purpose. It's not an unraveling into nothing. It's a reset for everything.
Okay, so we've got one vision of absolute, total finality and another of endless cycles. But this is where it gets really, really interesting. Both of these systems, in their own completely different ways, actually offer a potential escape hatch.
Let's start with the science. Even when you're staring down the barrel of something as final as the Big Rip, a totally bizarre possibility pops up from the strange world of quantum mechanics. It's a concept called the DeWitt criterion. Now, stay with me here. This is some mind-bending stuff. The basic idea is that as the universe gets closer and closer to that final destructive moment, the quantum rulebook might just say, nope. The probability of the universe actually existing in that state of total destruction could drop to zero. It's like the universe has a built-in safety switch that prevents it from committing suicide.
So, what's the mythological equivalent of a quantum get-out-of-jail-free card? Well, it's not about saving the whole universe, it's about saving yourself, your consciousness, from the endless cycle of destruction and rebirth. And the path to do it is called bhakti, or devotion. The logic here is just fascinating. The idea is that if you focus your entire being on the deity, and this is the wild part, even if you focus on them with hatred, that intense connection is so powerful that it can lift you out of the physical world. You become one with the very divine force that's causing all the destruction, and by doing that, you escape the cycle.
And here's that amazing parallel. Quantum avoidance is a mathematical condition for the entire universe. Bhakti is a spiritual state for the individual. One avoids a physical end when its probability wave disappears. The other transcends a spiritual end by merging with a god. Two totally different paths, but both, in their own way, offer an escape from the end.
So after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this? Well, it seems pretty clear that science and myth aren't actually competing. They're not even telling the same kind of story. They're trying to do two very different things. It really boils down to this. Science is obsessed with answering how. It wants to build a working model of the universe so we can understand its mechanics and predict what happens next. Myth, on the other hand, is obsessed with why. It wants to tell a story that gives our lives meaning, that tells us where we fit into the grand cosmic scheme of things. These aren't just different questions. They tap into two of our most fundamental human needs, the need to understand our world and the need to feel like we have a place in it.
Ultimately, whether it's through an equation or a goddess, all our stories about the end are part of the same, deeply human project. They're our relentless attempt to write a final chapter for the cosmos, to make some kind of sense of it all.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. When we imagine the end of everything, whether it's a big rip or a goddess's cosmic dance, are we really getting a glimpse into the future of the universe? Or are we just looking in a mirror, seeing our own deepest hopes, our greatest fears, and our unending need for a good story?